Hi there, welcome back to my studio for another little painting tutorial. Today we're going to be painting this painting here. We're going to be revisiting St. Martin's. To show you again, that's a bit quick. There's one glaring problem with this picture, and that is it's pretty dull. Composition is absolutely fine, but the actual painting itself is very grey, very overcast, very dull. I know this cottage here is actually painted a nice sort of sandstony colour now, so we can change that, make it look a bit brighter. But we can also add sun to it, a blue sky. We can put shadows across the path here, and basically we can enhance it and make it look a lot more cheerful. And that's what we'll be doing in the painting. I'll also be doing the drawing stage and just show you how loosely I draw the picture out. You can watch that, and if you're not interested in that, you can fast forward, so it might help a few people out. But yeah, we'll have a go at that and see what happens. It'll be quite a loose painting. I reckon painting time for this is just going to be over the hour, something like that. I think we'll be using a relatively limited palette of colours, kind of cobalt blue, cerulean blue, Windsor yellow, alizarin crimson, burnt sienna, raw sienna, possibly a bit yellow ochre. So about 7 or 8 colours for the painting, but I'll do a list of the colours on the video so you can see what we've used. The other thing is our membership now at the site is doing really well. We've got about, as it stands now, what's the date? It's sort of middle to end of November. We've got about, how many have we got? It's about just under 400 is it 400? Okay, I just went to check, make sure I give you the right numbers. We've got 398 members, which is great. Now only a small proportion of those are obviously active in the forum, and we've actually met them. I know a lot of people actually watch the videos. I can see that through stats and stuff. So if anybody wants to come down to the forum and just say hello, just check, just introduce yourself and let us know, if you're enjoying the videos, or if you want anything changed, or you want something requested. I'll do my best. And just introduce yourself, and maybe let's just have a look at some people's work, see what they've been doing. It'd be really nice if you could do that. But I know people are busy these days, and they come in, they just want to get on with, view the videos and then move on to something else. I understand that as well. I'm like that too, so I can appreciate it. But if you've got a few minutes to spare, check out the forum and just come and say hello. Okay, then let's not hang about. We'll get straight on with the video today, straight on with the painting today, and see how we get along. So I'm going to do some drawing now, give you some idea how I go about the drawing. I will edit the drawing down so you're not having to sit here through 15 minutes of me drawing, but we'll start and have a go. Okay. So basically what I do is I kind of have a go, before I actually launch into my drawing, I generally have a good look at the picture. And then I look at the size of paper I've got, and does it fit in with the format size of the paper? Because if I start where it looks like in the photograph on here, but it's a different size piece of paper or different shape, but it ain't going to work. You're going to end up with an odd size picture, or things aren't going to meet up quite as you think they will. But basically, this painting is telling me to start. Obviously, I always work left to right because I'm right-handed. I don't want to be putting my hand over the drawing, so I'll start on this side and we'll work my way across here. I kind of look at the picture, and I tend to look at it and just think, well, how much of this section here is being eaten up? Where do I need to start that on my piece of paper? And yeah, that's basically it really. So then all I need to do, that goes from to the bottom, top to bottom, so I reckon about here. And actually I'm just gonna, it's quite a rough wall, so it's not a straight edge to it. It's got lots of plants growing on it, and then there's plants coming up at the bottom. So instead of drawing the plants, I'm literally just gonna do some loose sort of design to indicate the plants. That's enough for me. Yeah. Now some people might feel they want to do it in more detail, and that is absolutely perfect, because if that's the way you lean towards, if that's what you lean towards in your painting, absolutely fine. That's where you need to go, because You can incorporate, if you're a type painter or very detailed, you can incorporate loose techniques, and that can really be a powerful way to paint. So, you know, just because you paint everything, you feel tempted to paint everything, doesn't mean you necessarily shouldn't, but you can still use the loose technique within your work. And then I can just see some plants here growing up in the corner. So again, I'm just gonna, the paint will do that. I'm just gonna roughly put the shape in there of where they are. There's some like cactusy things. I can't remember what they're called. They're incredible things on the side there, which I'm just going to indicate like that. Then we'll come back later and the plant's got. Now we're starting to look at the angles, and I'm going to look at this building, this roof here, and I'm just reckoning about there. I'm not measuring it. You know, it might be out slightly, but does it really matter? I'm a painter. And that's why I took up painting, because it's all about the freedom. Freedom is just a wonderful thing. In everything you do, freedom is so important. And for me, that's why I never was able to hold down a job for very long, because I couldn't do the routine. I couldn't do the... that's about halfway. And then the... this broken down glass house then runs up the side of the wall. So I'm just gonna, it doesn't match the angle of the roof, so don't be tempted to paint it to match the angle of the roof, which you'll have too steep an angle on this. It's quite a shallow angle on that. But again, I'm just putting a loose line in. Then I kind of measure this distance then between the guttering and the top of the corrugated roof. See, you could be tempted to put it too far down, then you end up with everything going wrong. It is sloping down. If you measure the angle on the photograph, it is sloping down, but not that much. And then that's that. There's a little gutter here, which is nice. It's quite interesting to make a fussier board there. And then after that, I wouldn't do a lot more, because if you start drawing it in, you can open yourself up for leaving it, making mistakes. That's what I see anyway. I'm going to let the paint suggest it. Then there's this lovely water barrel just here. Okay, and I'm just going to sketch this water barrel in very loosely. Actually, no, I'm going to put the windows in first. Just kind of get the perspective right on there. So these are coming down as well. I'm just drawing a rough line for those. And then the windows start off in the distance, they start off close together, and as they come towards you, that gap opens up slightly. So it's important to get that, which sometimes I don't get it. You know, still goes pear-shaped frequently. Anybody that tells you anything different, they're genius artists, or right about there, I think. I quite like making more of this barrel because it's such a lovely feature in the painting. And I'm just going to do the zigzaggy design down the barrel and just make it look really rickety. Then there's lots of plants growing up around it. This picture must have been taken in the 80s, I reckon. No, not 80s. About mid-90s. And this fell into total disrepair, but now I think it's been converted into a house. I'm not sure. I haven't been back on the islands for 4 or 5 months, so not sure. So I'm just drawing the grass here, just very rough. You can see how I'm drawing it. Then we got so we got that wall there, which I want to make a nice feature of. We got that there. There's another thing you can notice. I'm sketching very lightly. I'm not. Then I'm kind of measuring the width of this here. Be very tempted to come out too far and end up with the wrong. It's quite a small angle. There's a word for that. I can't think what it is. So, and then I'll just measure there. Okay, so that'll be fine. There's another little roof behind it, and then there's another roof that comes up here, which is this one, and it comes down there. That'll do. This bit's quite crucial to spend a little bit of time on. Make sure you get it right. About there. This is the porch. Here. Sketch the porch in. There's all fascia board. Comes down to that point. That's about there actually. And then there's some lovely miniature echiums here. They're beautiful. They only grow in the, well, they grow in warmer climates. I don't think that, I think they will grow in parts of Cornwall, but they won't. They're not. Excuse me. They won't tolerate frost. But they grow in the Scilly Isles, and they are absolutely the most beautiful thing. They throw their seeds down, and you'll get loads of them come up. And then the following year, they'll grow maybe about 3 foot in the first year, I think. And then the second year, they go up to maybe 14, 15 feet. I've seen some, and they flower. Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Okay, so we've got the porch just roughly sketched in there, and I'm just going to leave that like that. And then we've got the path coming down here. Again, I don't want that to be a hard line, so remember when you paint it, when I talk about hard lines, remember to soften that into the come a little bit too far on that roof there, but not too bad. That'll be alright. Just forget about that bit, and that's the edge of it. Okay, so now we're into the tree here, the tree line here. Oh, actually we're not. Let's just do this bit. I can't quite remember how that goes, but sometimes sometimes we look at it can be very hard painting from photographs because you can't see an awful lot. It's so much easier painting from life to go outside and do your thing, because you see things obviously a lot bigger and a lot clearer. Right, so now we're just going on to painting this bit here. Drawing it in. Now the tree, these trees are just beautiful trees, pine trees. I'm just going to put in the shape of them. Just make sure I get the right size. I'll go round. And they kind of, I'm drawing them all as one. They're 2 trees. Well, I think there might be 3 trees actually. I can't quite remember. But I'm drawing them as one because they've all sort of mingled into one shape. And then there's some foliage back here. And I've got to be careful with the road here because there's people in the way. I might put some figures in the road, but not as many as there is there. I'm not sure how that goes. Can't remember. This is the other side of the path coming down. And there's another little barn on this side, which will put the roof in, which is great because it kind of balances the eye. And it's just a flat roof. Now this is, again, I know this has changed because it was my friend that lived there and he built a bigger barn there, which was done very sympathetically and fitted into the island very well. A rhododendron bush there, and then this. So I'm just sketching it in very lightly. I'm not committing myself to anything. If you keep those pencil marks really light, you can just, you know. And then there's some. Now there's only one echium here. Now I know they grow a lot more than that, so I'm going to put a few in because they absolutely make the painting. I'm just. Do you see how I'm just squiggling? You probably. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but I hope you can. So I'm just literally drawing a line up. I'm not making them all the same height, just sort of varying them slightly and just doing little squiggles on the way down. If I can find a picture of an echium to accompany this to give you some idea what they look like, I will. I'm sure I can. And then over this side, just here, there's a post, a concrete post. Just roughly put that in. This painting's got quite a lot of work in it, but you know, if you're a beginner, don't let it faze you. Just have a go. And I'm just gonna. Classic island is. For those people that live in the UK, I just say go. It's absolutely beautiful. It really is. It is a timeless place. Absolutely timeless. And it's okay. There's my drawing. Okay, I hope you can see that. So we talked that through a little bit, and how long does it take? Let me see how long I've been recording for. Oh, I don't know. But we'll get onto the painting stage now. Hopefully we'll have a success. Now, instead of painting this in an all-over wash today, doing everything in one go, I'm going to paint this in kind of semi-sections. I'm going to do the sky first, and we're going to keep the sky really simple, and I'm just using some cerulean blue for the sky because it's only a small area and we don't want to make it busy. I want to keep it quite crisp and nice. I'm not even going to wet the page, I don't think. I'm just going to use my flat brush, what's that, inch flat, and paint that in. I don't mind if I get a couple of little broken. I always get tempted to put clouds in when that happens. You get a nice kind of, but mustn't, not today. I'm going to just go over the tree a bit because that's going to be quite dark. I don't want to leave cut-out shapes. And then just as I come over this side, a bit more water. Doesn't matter if I go over the tops of the ecums because they are going to be darker, and they're going to be like a mauvey bluey colour anyway, so they'll be fine. And then just where I've come down to the tree line here, I'm just going to soften the edge a little bit, and that's all I'm doing with the sky today. Shouldn't really be going back into it, but I am. So what I might just do, here we go, can't resist fiddling, is just put a little bit of darker colour in places, just to, I don't know, just to what? Just to fiddle. And over there. As we can't help ourselves, can we? So there we go. And that sky, I know that sky is going to dry lighter, and it will sit back a little bit as we put more detail in the foreground. Okay then, now this wall here is quite crucial in the painting. Now I know it's grey on there, on the actual picture, but it's been painted like a sandstone-y kind of colour. I don't know what colour you'd call it, like a creamy sort of colour. So I've just pulled out some yellow ochre with a little bit of Naples yellow in it, and I've also done some cobalt blue, and I've done some permanent rose and a little bit of cobalt blue with a touch of yellow ochre just to sort of knock it back a bit and grey it down. Okay, so I'm going to paint this wall in now, but what I want to do, I'm going to paint a technique called wet into wet on this wall, where I'm merging these colours all in together so they all run together. Instead of having a flat colour, I'm looking at, it's hard to tell from this picture, but I know I'm just going to make the shift from warm to cool. It's not going to be all one sort of flattish colour. Later there'll be some shadow put over it, but at the moment I'm just going to go for the flat colour. And now I'm looking at it, I'm just thinking perhaps I won't. Perhaps I will do the front of the house first, and then I'll come around that side and add the colour later. Difficult decision. But either way, I haven't drawn the windows in, so I'm just painting round roughly where I see the windows. You can draw them in if you want to. They're just going to be indicated, they're not going to be any detail in them. There we go. And again, it will be the same on this one here. It's a nice, been painted the same colour as the house. And I'm using quite a big brush again. I'm still using my inch flat. So keeping the brushes on the big side. Now I just think I might just go over this roof here, because it's a nice warm undercolour for it. So I just think I might go over it. Again, you don't have to if you don't want to. Just leave that for a minute like that. There we go. So I'm taking this quite slowly. What I'm going to do with that is just add a little bit of the permanent rose and cobalt blue, just a slightly greyed out version, a bit more blue in it. I'm just going to hit the page a couple of times just to so it's not too flat in colour, and the same on that side, just to give it some interest. And those colours will then just merge in together on the page. Okay. Now when I look at the bottom of this, I'll tell you, we'll go to this wall here now. Now this is lots of greys and warm colours and ochres and stuff in it. So I'm going to mix some green as well at this point. And I'm just going to mix some Windsor yellow. Don't take too much. Always remember to have lots of fresh water. And some cobalt blue. And I'm just going to mix up a little green for myself there. More on the yellow side. It's quite a fresh looking green. And some burnt sienna. And I can use the other colours I've got here, because I really want. So basically for this corner there's some little white flowers in here. I'm just going to start dropping the green in where I said those plants were growing, and I'm just going to make sure I leave some little white specks, just breaking it with the tip of the brush, just where I want to suggest the flowers. And there's some more down here. We won't worry about down there for a minute. And then I'm going to come back to the wall. Up here there's quite a lot of red in the wall. I'll shift it back over to the wall. And now it's constantly letting the colours. Now I'm adding some cobalt blue, and you see I'm getting a nice grey colour now. This has got a little bit of red in it. When you work like this, the problem can be you have to work very fast. You can't go too slow. Right, so now I'm just going to bring the cool colours down. So that's the edge of the wall there. And again I'm coming down. Perhaps drag the brush a bit just to get some dry brush in it. Now I'll go back to those greens again now. Just reinstate those a bit. We've got a lot more going on down here. Green's going on. And then we'll go back to the blue, which the blue's merging with the burnt sienna. It's creating quite a nice sort of grey colour, and that's just what we want. Just go around the flowers there, because we will come back to this obviously. Now we're getting down to where the plants are at the grass area. A bit of that and a bit of burnt raw sienna, and we'll, and I'm just leaving some highlights, some white bits, so later some jagged areas there. That's going to be in the dark later. We'll show those off. And now it's getting a bit lusher and greener down here, so I can add more blue to the mix and make a sort of a cooler green. Don't forget, at this stage we haven't put in the shadows, so things always tend to look a bit flat and can often look. But don't just paint all your grass green. Add some golds and mauves and a little bit of different colours to make it interesting. The viewer's eyes don't want to be bored, so I'm adding a little bit of purple there. Just as I come up to the bin, I'm just sort of fading it out slightly. Now I'm going to paint this wall in at the same time here.
And I'm just going to go with some cobalt blue and a little bit of that yellow ochre just to make it a grayer mix. But when we come back later to revisit these areas, we'll be drawing some more shapes in there. Okay, so where are we at? Now I'm going to go up towards the house here, putting in the grassy areas, trying to keep the strokes kind of interesting. Sorry. The thing is, if you make it interesting, it keeps you interested. That's the thing to remember. It keeps you, the artist, interested. If the paintings become sort of all the same, then you're going to become bored. Trust me. Now I'm just putting in some cooler greens. What I said about not painting every blade of grass, just kind of letting the colours change to warm to cool, back to warm again. Now I've got to put this ekin bush here. I'm just going to put this in a mauvey colour because it's quite nice, but we will visit it again later and do more with it. This is just adding some cobalt blue in there as well. Yeah, it's impossible for me to stop and talk about every colour I'm doing, because every mix I'm doing, because I'm just doing lots of sort of counter change as I'm going along. I've left the barrel there, we'll come back and sort that in a minute. Now I'm going to just swap my brushes, that's got a little bit big. Now what should I go for? I'll go for my smallest Iso Bay brush. And I want some thicker paint for this, I don't want to have it too watery. Have a little bit of raw sienna and a little bit of that magenta colour, because it's on the top of the bush, it's very light. So I want to get that in. And then we go back to some greeny colour here, some highlighted greeny colour. And I'm just going to soften this path. Remember I said about softening the edges where it joins the path. Have some hard edge, but then also look to soften some areas. Like that. And if they bleed a bit, just come back and lift the colour out with your brush. Keep an eye on it until it dries. Again, I want to soften that area there. And maybe soften some of the bush, because it's all about, you know, finding the right balance. There's some little echiums here. There's the tree echium, I think it's called, and there's the bush echium. And we're here, behind here, we had some little bush echiums here. So we're just going to put those in. Now I'm just literally just suggesting, I'm not going to be going to town on it. We can make more of it later, but they are there. Okay. And then just behind all that, there's a little bit more lighter planting going on. But we'll come back and reinforce that in a little while. And when we paint in the windows behind there, that will all soften slightly. Now we're going to come on to the windows here. There's plenty of warmth in the actual paintwork. Was white, but it's all kind of chipped off. So I'm just going to kind of suggest where the different panes of glass were, just by drawing it with the tip of the brush. I'm just looking at the picture and I'm just kind of trying to get that really old rickety feel with it. And then we'll come back in and put the glass in a minute. There's a nice blue fussy board just here. I'm just going to lightly sketch that in. I don't care that it runs into the thing, that's fine. Okay. Okay then, now we'll move on to some of these trees in the distance, these bushes in the distance. And they're going to be, because they're further away, I'm going to make them a little bit bluer, which will help them sit back a bit. I will run some warmer colour into the ones in the foreground, but overall they'll be. So the ones I'm starting off with here will be slightly warmer. So I'm just cutting in around the roof here, bit of a wall that runs down there. And instead of just painting it all green, I'm going to add blue and a bit of warmer colour, like I say, in places. Just trying to keep it interesting. So I'm just adding some blue here. Now, and then I'll warm it up again with a bit more warm colour, just at the tops. And then when we go to the right to the back, I've made it blue. I'm trying to keep the tops a little bit loose. Cutting around the building as neatly as I can. I'm not going to put the tree in yet. I'm just going to go around the outside. And then down here there's some warmer colours. A pathway. Something like that. The path kind of disappears off. It's hard to see where the path goes really. The road goes, it kind of goes around the corner there. Just put some shadow in there. Some bushes there. Bit of shadow in there. So basically just look at your picture and add, you know, just see what you got. Just okay. I need to carry that on around the barn. And for that now I'm just going to change the colour a little bit. Just make it a little bit bluer. That's the top of the barn. And there's these distant trees. They just run off behind the echiums. There's the barn top there. Just break some of the roofs up. Some of the tops of the trees. And then again now I'm going to move to warmer green this side, just so we're not keeping it all the same. It's just about varying it. If you just have flat green everywhere, the same green throughout, you'll end up with something that doesn't look too, you know, it can still look good, but it would just look a bit boring. I'm just going to soften this path now, so I'm just clean my brush and I'm just lifting some colour out here so it's not too hard. This is a rhododendron bush here or something like that, so I'm going to keep that and put some nice brighter colour in there. But yeah, just try and make it look a bit interesting there. Okay, so that's that bit done. Just before it goes too, before it dries too much, just going to mix a darker green up. And what I'll do is I'll just add a little bit of alizarin crimson to it. Too much, it's such a powerful colour. And just where I see the darkest shadows in the green, just like there, just while it's still damp. I'm just dropping those shadows in. Should have been a bit bluer really, a bit warm. And there's some up here, just to give the foliage different levels. And if you do it while it's still slightly damp, you end up getting not such a hard edge. Just makes it look a bit more interesting. There we go. I won't fiddle any more than that. Okay, then next I'm going to move on to these windows just down here. No, I'm not doing really this in any particular order. I'm just showing you a different way of how I paint. Sometimes I could have done this the all-in-one technique where I put lots of colour down and stain the whole paper to start with, but I've chosen to do it this way today, just to give. So basically, the windows are kind of reflecting back a greeny sort of colour. It's hard to know what colour it is really. So I'm just gonna look at the overall shape. I'm gonna go in there at the moment. I'm gonna put a bit of warm colour in there as well. I'm gonna watch I don't put my hands in the painting. That's gonna be shadowy. Oh, excuse Toby. Okay, I think he's finished barking now. Get back to it. And just going to roughly suggest these windows. Some green. That wasn't very clever. A bit green on that window. Reflected back. When you're doing this sort of thing, I always think it's better to be quick and get it down quickly, because we want to come back in and put some draw in with the rigger in a little while and get some more detail to this. This is just you know, putting the first coat in, if you like, of that area. I think if you mess about too much, for my style and the way I do it, it doesn't work out. I'm really having problems. It's funny, some days everything's going well, and other days you pick up mixes and you tend to mix with too much water. Then if you put colour, say you want to add some colour to an area you've just painted. Now in that colour you're adding, if there's too much water, more water than what's on the paper, you'll get a horrible effect. I'm sure somebody must know the name for that. Actually I do, but I've forgotten. So now I'm just going to drop some colour into the windows just above here. There's some shadow just where it wants to run in, and then in a bit I'll come back when that's dry and draw some colour into that and draw some shapes. There's just a little bit of detail on this roof. With a different we're not going to do too much with that, but again we can come back to that and add some bits. Now I'm going to start being quite loose with my brush work round here. I'll tell you what we can do now. We'll do the barrel. So I'm just adding some cobalt blue to my yellow ochre and Naples yellow, and I get quite a nice grey colour for that. And I'm just, there, can you see that's really nice grey colour. I'll remember on this side it's going to be a lot lighter, so I just want to run it in that side. And I'll drop some darker colour in this side in a while. And there's a rather nice shadow that we'll put in back there later. Now while that's drying, I'll just come back to this area of the wall up here, and I'll take some raw sienna, burnt sienna, sorry, some cobalt blue and some cerulean blue, and just start adding a little bit of detail around those plants. And again, I'm just looking at the wall and I'm just seeing the dark areas and I'm just drawing it in, really. I'm not worrying. And then some dry brush to create some, detail. Some texture, sorry. And then when I can see the really dark areas. It's a funny wall, this. It really is rough. I think when they built it, going back donkey's years ago, they used very, very poor granite because it was just a barn. And I think the quality of the granite was not good. So hence it's got a very rough exterior. Okay, so now I'm just going to go back and just put some shadow into these green areas that I did. So there we go, making sure I leave the little white spaces. I don't mind if that runs into some of the colour that I've just put down. So it's just I don't want to be spending ages doing that. Because if I was outside painting, I'd have to make these decisions really quickly and capture it. And for me, that is the joy of painting. I just love, absolutely adore painting outside. And the spring can't come soon enough. Because problem with working outside with watercolour, this time of year it don't dry. It doesn't dry. Sorry, don't dry. Terrible English. It it won't dry. There's a funny cactusy thing there. There's another one down here. So I'm just adding the detail. I'll do a little bit of splattering on there later. In a minute I'll come back and put some shadows back on that, and it will make it all start to make sense a bit more when I put some shadows on. I just want to get this wall in now because it's kind of fidgeting me. I'm almost putting it off because I can't remember how I painted it last time. But anyway, I'm going to go for the warmer colour, and I'm just going to go for it. I always think if you don't know if you're not for sure about something, just launch into it. Generally, it comes out okay. Can't be a disaster, can it? But I've got to remember it's in shadow, so it's going to be quite a bit darker. But I want to bear in mind it was carve that in. So stop talking a minute because I'm trying to concentrate on that. I should swap hands, but I want to get some green in there because there's some plants growing up that. I just want to go back up here a minute before it add a bit darker. Yeah, we'll come back because I could put some darks in on the other side to get the windows in, which will make that come. We'll make that work, he says. Just a little bit of crimson in that. There's some greenery up here. I just want to get that in before the. There, that'll do. And I want to get a line in there in a bit. Okay. I'm pretty happy with that. We've got all our shadows to go down here yet, so this will all balance up in the end. Now we want to get our shadows in here while it's still wet. This is the guttering I'm doing now, and I'm just doing this with a mixture of burnt sienna and a little what's it called, cerulean blue. Just breaking the line up a bit so we don't know. I'm going to pop the windows in, and I'm really going to keep those simple. If I start fiddling with those windows, hand in the paint, it's going to go wrong. And they are oval, just oval shapes. Just got to concentrate a second. Need a smaller brush. That will do. There's like a, have to bear in mind there's a divide in the wall comes down here. Looks like a drain pipe, but it's not. Yeah, that's fine. And while we're doing that, we'll just put this window in here. The background. I hope you can see that okay. So basically I'll just put the windows in with cerulean blue and burnt sienna. Before this dries, I want to come and put some nice shadows down. Now before this wall area that I did, I want to just get this where the ridge tile comes in. That's a very important line, that is, to get slightly darker, but you don't want to put it in too late. You want it so it fuses into the actual colour there a little bit. Just do that there. Okay, this is taking me a little bit longer today because this is the gutter. Now, because I'm painting this with more sunlight coming down, I need to now put the shadow in under the eaves here. Basically, that's basically what it is. There's a shadow under that gutter. Just add that. But we'll come back and draw some more into that in a bit. Okay. Right, now we'll just go to the roof on this little cottagey bit. Now the ridge tiles on that, the sort of, yeah, ridge tiles are a warm bricky colour. So I'm just using a bit of cad red and cadmium yellow for that. I'm making them a bit brighter than they are in the picture, just to add some interest, as I keep saying. And the tiles underneath that are a mixture of sort of warm and cool, sort of grey colours. So I'm just going to exactly do that. Some cool colour, so just a warm colour, then add some cool colour, and just let those colours fuse together on the page, and try and keep the brushwork loose. Now we need to kind of draw this area in through the windows. I'm just looking where the panes of glass are. I can see lots of detail through there, but I'm not going to be painting it all in. Bit of warmth. Again, it's changing those colours. And just sort of where you've got your plants, don't try and paint around them too accurately. Well, unless you really want to. I just kind of, you know, suggest it around the plants. Now we'll come back to this in a minute, and we'll add some detail to that. And we'll put some shadow on these tiles in a bit. Just trying to keep it as lively as possible, really, without it becoming too overworked. Okay, now we've got our I'll tell you what we'll just do quickly. We'll just do the same on this one. We'll put in the end of the wall there. Okay, then now we're going to paint in the tree. That's all going to be in like one flat wash, the tree. So it's important to get pretty important to get the shape right in one go. And just looking at the picture, it looks a bit dull. So I'm just going to sort of vary the colours within it a bit, to sort of pick it up a bit. I'll have some dark greens, some blues, some mauves. These are the sort of colours I'm mixing. So this cobalt blue, alizarin crimson, some, what else was in there? Burnt umber, those sorts of colours. Nice, rich darks. Let's just see what happens, really. So I'm going to start at the top and work my way down. So I'm just going to use the side of my brush initially, just to try and get a lighter touch. Remembering that I can always come back and add colour, drop colour in like that if I want to make it darker. But at the top it's generally a bit lighter because the light's hitting it. I want to make sure I get my sky holes in. Remember the importance of sky holes. There isn't many sky holes in the top of this tree. It's very dense, but I move towards some blue here in the centre, because obviously the tree becomes quite dark in the middle. But on the outside it's got a kind of warmish glow to it. So basically when you're doing things like the tree, really, you know, study it as best as you can and try and get some broken brush strokes around the edge. Not always easy, you know, like I say, it's all a bit of a learning game. Right, now I'm just going to put the trunk in, basically the same colour for the trunk as I am for the other trunk. I'm trying not to spend a lot of time on it because I just want to get it in. I don't. Then on the other side of this, there's some branches that are quite important to the actual structure of the tree. So I'm just going to lift my rigger out now, and hopefully get those in. Because they do add something to it. It's a sort of detail that I think is essential. But I'm just doing mine quite loosely. You could spend more time over that if you wanted to. A few little. What is that side? That side. Okay. I might come back to what I might do in a second. So there's a bit of a shadow there. I'm just going to go back into the centre of the tree, so I'm adding more cobalt blue, a little bit of alizarin. I've never been good at forming words, particularly. So doing this, and a little bit of yellow ochre. So I've got cobalt blue, alizarin crimson, and a little bit of yellow ochre in there. But it's on the bluer side. So it's cool, and I'm just going to drop that into the centre of the tree, and just up there because there's some shadows up there as well, but mostly in the centre of the tree. Just you'll get when you look at the tree and study the photo, you might get tempted to paint everything, but don't. You'll make life hard for yourself. Okay, so I'm going to leave that like that for the time being. Maybe come back to it. Now with that same colour, I'm just going to put a few little darks in down this window, a bit dark of the inside. You can see some things going on, so it's just and right underneath the eaves are there. That'll do. Right, so now we'll come back to this wall, and we're just going to put some shadows in along here where the sun's coming down this way, and it's where the plants are hanging, it's just casting a little bit of shadow on the wall. Make it a bit bluer. Same on that one. And what I'm going back to do now is just softening some of the edges of those shadows. This one down here has got shadows, it's casting. Go back and just soften some of the edges. Same with this one. You know, you could spend quite a long time fiddling with this sort of thing, but obviously because I'm doing a video for you guys, I haven't got, you know, I don't want to make the video too long, so I'm trying to get everything down for you so you can see well, 99% of what I do, but without making it too long. Okay, there we go. Right, now we're going to just do this barrel here and put some shadow in on that. That has to be quite a nice deep shadow, and again you'll see it when you, there's some warmth in it. The shadow kind of follows the rings around the barrel. Oops, too far. It's got a shadow on the other side, but you can, there we go. The shadow goes up over the wall, something like that. And then just soften the shadow in places, you know. Again, you can, I'll come back with the rigger in later and just help it out a bit, give it a bit more structure. Just going to go back in there a bit more dark, and let that sort of work its way out. We've got some shadow here caused by these plants. And this plant here has to be quite a bit dark, because now I put the darks in, the values on these plants have changed and they need to be increased quite a bit, because what you've got to remember, it's the darks that make the lights, and what we're doing now, we're sort of that stage of the painting where you're putting the darks in, you're starting to create the lights in the painting. God, I talk too much. Right. There's some purple in there, something like it. And I want to go back some darks. They're kind of like in shadow, really. Oh, there are some pinks back there, but there's another bush behind. So anyway, I'm going to kind of have to leave that like that. You get the idea. There we go. We'll leave that like that. Okay. Now we'll just what we do now, just work on some of this foreground here, and instead of paint, this is the technique I've tried to explain many times, instead of actually painting in lots of grass, I'm just sort of adding broad shapes to suggest that the actual viewer kind of makes those decisions in their head, sort of thing. It kind of all gets knitted together as they look at the picture. Now just but then again, some people might find this really irritating, and they feel they want to have the detail, which is absolutely fine. You know, you can do that. Is the beauty about painting. There really is no right or wrong. It's completely down to how you see things, or how you want to interpret them. So now I'm just working on the foreground, adding some detail to the flowers. As you can see there, I'm not just painting it all green. I know that as artists we enhance things. That's what we do. Okay, I'll come back. I'm trying to get this done quite quickly, so I'll come back to that. What actually makes this paint at the end is the shadows that we'll have running across here. Absolutely beautiful. Right, so next thing, we'll leave that now. We'll come back to that in a bit. We will just put the shadow in on the roof. Now the roof, I want a nice cool grey for the roof. So I'm just going to mix that up. That will do nicely. There's a bit of a roof through there. And then on this side, I'm just going to have a bit stony colour. So I'm having a bit of yellow ochre. And the wall goes down there. Something like that. That will do us. And it'll be the same for this rock here. It'll be like a mixture of yellow ochre and some cobalt blue, because in granite there's lots of blue. Just run that down there. The stone goes down there. Okay, so that's that bit done. Now the rhododendron hasn't really got much flower on it, but it is by the time I finished. So I'm going to put some nice pinks with a little bit of. So I'm just using permanent rose for this. You could use any pinky you've got. Don't worry. And then we'll break that up a bit with some darker shadow in a minute when it's dry. We just see the road going off down there, which is quite good. Now I want to get those echiums in. Now they really are almost just cobalt blue. But I'll add a little bit of pinky colour to them, because they are a little bit pinky. And this one's going to go right, so they're just going to be sketched in. And I'm literally just loosely, it's how you do flowers really, it's just like all the way down. That one's beautiful. Bit more magenta to that one. I'm mindful the dog's going to bark any minute because Leslie will be back home. And just sketch that one in down there. Didn't mean to go quite as wide as that. Lift it off from my finger. That'll do. Soften some of the edges so they don't look too hard. And we'll just leave those two in there. I might have a third actually. Just running up there. Because it will make, I don't like twos. And then this side we've got to put some greenery in. So we can start adding, so I'm just using the same greens. I'm just using Windsor yellow. You could use lemon yellow or anything like that with some cobalt blue and some cerulean blue. Just to soften the colours in that rhododendron brush. Gone a bit too far out there, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. And then the bush comes under there. We have another one that sticks out here. So just adding some, now this side's going to be quite dark, it's going to be a lot of shadow because the sun's coming in this direction, so you can really go for it with your darks here. I'm just adding lots of blues, greens, yellows, just mixing them in on the page really. Look at that. Oh, it's the best thing about painting, when you can be loose and like that. Now I'm going to go for some blue there. Just softening in the base of those echiums so they don't sort of look too unnatural. And this is the kind of speed you would work outside if you're painting. Well, it's the sort of speed I'd work outside. I'll come back and put the shadow in this post later. Perhaps even a little bit faster. And I always feel you do. And you can always, you know, if you get the essentials down when you're out in the field painting, you can always come back into your studio and get the rest down. Right, so some neutral colours. So it's a mixture of sort of more neutrally greens, browns, greys, sorry, and then highlighted with some blues. Now I want to get some shadow here before it goes dries. Paint it all very loosely, very impressionistic. It's good enough for Monet, it's good enough for me. And we'll put the shadows across the road. That will really help things in a bit. There we go. Just bearing in mind I am doing this, you know, as quick as I can for you. Now I want to mix some really nice darks, just to get them quite punchy in there. So I've gone with cobalt blue, alizarin crimson and a touch of Windsor yellow, just to sort of make it a bit greyer. And I'm just going to look where my real darks are now. They're here. And I'm just going to put, I'll draw a little, later when this is dried, I'll draw a little, that's where the echiums are growing up, so there's darks round there. But when it's dried, I'll come back and add some detail to it, so it gives it a bit more structure. Okay, and eventually these edges down here will be softened by the shadow. So at the moment they look a bit too hard, I know. Just soften them a bit now in places. But they will be. Why don't we whack the shadow in now? Yeah, well, right. I wasn't going to do it now, but we will. Okay, so I'm going to go with some cobalt blue, magenta, and now the shadow would be cast if it was sunny. It's not sunny in the picture, but it would be. It would be cast across here. Now I want to add a little bit of warmth to it as well at the ends. I don't want it all to be blue. There's a little bit of light coming across that way. Go back to the blue. And finally just draw the shadow out this way a bit. It's right across the road here. Watch I don't drip my palette on the plate. Okay. I just want to go back with some stronger colour now, just under the bases. There we go. Make sure we get the then we can start putting in some, when it starts drying, we start putting in some detail. That post needs to be darkened. Watch I don't go with this with too much water, like I said earlier, because I'll get some not such nice effects possibly. On this post, need some more yellow on that. It's too dark. There we go. Let's keep it. But we'll come back and we'll finish it off in a bit. Just so just quickly revisiting places to oh, here comes Leslie. There we go. Okay, now that's dried, I'm just going to go back to our echiums quickly and just add a little bit of cobalt blue with a touch of permanent magenta, permanent rose, sorry, and just start to reinforce some of these colours a little bit. Soften it with my finger. Same with this one that comes out this angle. And there's that third one I put in down here. What's that? Then I'll go back to my darker mix. So it's cobalt blue, some Windsor yellow, and a little bit of alizarin. A bit more blue. The yellow just helps to grey it out slightly and makes it a bit more neutral. And I'm just going to look at where the foliage, just want to describe some foliage a little bit, because if not it can look all a little bit too soft. Soften some edges. That's better there. So we've done that. Just kind of look at my picture. There's a little bit going on down here, other side of the post. So again, it's just the same three colours, a little pool of colour there, and the further they go away, the further the I'll just soften that. So there we go, so I've painted it in there. Now I've just got a damp brush and I'm just softening around the edge. Yeah? I'm doing it ever so quickly, so I hope you're getting it. Again, down here, we'll just do a few sort of little dabs. Come back to this side. And we're going to be just about finished, I think, on this one. I could do more work up here. Oh, I'll tell you where I need to put a bit of shadow. Just under that line where the back of the shed is. Just in shadow there. And a little bit more shadow on that side. Just to paint that in. And there is some little bit of shadow here. You know, you can mess about a bit and have a little work with yours, tweak around. Just quite a bit more focus, but for me that's going to be about it really for this demonstration. I hope you found it useful, but don't forget, have a go at the painting, and then once you've finished it, use the reference picture, use your imagination, and then come back to the forum and then upload what you've done, and we'll have a, you know, myself or other artists will sort of help you out with it if you're having any difficulties, or if you want to come and have a chat about the actual painting before you have a go. If there's questions you want to ask, feel free to do that. That's what it's there for. But we'll just pop a mount round it and see what it looks like before I go. Let's go over here. Smudge anything. There we go. You see that? That gives you some idea what it looks like with the mount on it. But yeah, it's a nice colourful painting. So, you know, you don't have to use a huge palette of colours. I think we use about 7 different colours in this painting. But it's all about just keeping it simple. And we use a different approach where we instead of staining the whole paper first, we kind of started with the sky. Then we went to this building. And we just dotted ourselves around the picture. Okay, so I hope you found that useful. Like I say, come along to the forum afterwards, introduce yourself if you haven't already, and let's see what you've been doing. Thanks ever so much for watching, and bye for now.